Hello fellow YouTubers, LEGO AWC Style Motioner here. Welcome to viewers new and old, and today I'm doing a 2-for-1 review for Transformers Animated, Activators Bumblebee, and Cliffjumper. Just thought I should do these two in the same review since they're pretty much just repaints aside from different heads, as per usual with Bumblebee and Cliffjumper figures. So, a couple years ago, I uploaded a short talking about the Age of Extinction one-step changer Bumblebee, and it was a big figure, and I criticized it for its lack of articulation for being as big as it was. And I got a couple comments from people justifiably pointing out that it's made for kids, it's meant to be simplistic. And I completely understand that. The thing is, these figures are simplistic and a lot smaller, and yet they have pretty decent articulation. So I get them wanting to make simple figures for kids. I just feel they've made them a little too simple in more recent years. So we'll start things off with Bumblebee here. And first off, I just want to say that the person who owned these previously put Autobot insignias on them that look more like the animated Autobot insignias as opposed to just traditional Autobot insignias. I'd like to know if there's a place where I can get animated Autobot and Decepticon insignias, because generally they look like traditional Autobot and Decepticon insignias, but not quite like the animated versions of them. And they're also usually the wrong color, so I'd like to get them insignias that look more accurate to that cartoon. Anyway, I got sidetracked. Overall, paint on this guy is pretty good. The front window is painted, the side windows are painted, and the back window is painted. It's got a stripe running across, red paint on the light there. The headlights are painted, and the taillights are painted, which is really nice. Wheels are painted, they're pinned on. Not really a ton of rolling, unfortunately. And if I did have one complaint with him visually, these black parts on the back, it's just part of the transformation, it's just how it works, but it looks a little out of place. Yeah, overall, Bumblebee, not too bad. And then here he is with the deluxe version. And the thing is, this one doesn't have translucent windows, so because of that, the paint matching on this guy is naturally a lot better than on this one. I still prefer this figure overall. He just does more of what I'd want an animated Bumblebee figure to do, but again, this one, for what it is pretty good. Then for Cliffjumper, he's not as well painted as Bumblebee, but he has the paint details that I think he needs at least. Now the blue light on top here is painted, and thing is, we never actually saw a Cliffjumper transform in the show, let alone into an Earth vehicle, but he probably would have looked something like this if he had gotten an Earth vehicle mode. I don't know what kind of plans they had for him for the 4th season. Could have been something somewhat notable. Maybe they just weren't going to have him in the season at all. It's hard to say. He does have paint right here though, whereas on Bumblebee, this area in between the headlights was just left blank. And he also has painted taillights. And then he's got these gray parts that, like on Bumblebee, kind of stick out. Still, it's not the worst thing in the world. So yeah, that's Cliffjumper and pretty much just the alt modes in general. So now we can move on to the transformation. And the transformation, pretty simple. Just push the light right here. And it's getting stuck because I'm filming, which is annoying, but it works pretty well still. I'm going to fold the feet down and then split them. And go ahead and just angle the arms out like this. And there you have the robot mode. And overall, it's a pretty solid robot mode. I think the head sculpt looks really good. Definitely captures the look of animated Bumblebee. And he does some things better than the deluxe. I mean, for one, I've seen a fair bit of people who prefer this Bumblebee over the deluxe version because this one's a better size. As I said, I still like the deluxe version a little better. Even if he cheats, I like the chest better. And even if they're not great. I'm glad he does at least have stingers, as opposed to just not having them at all. Still, the Activators Bumblebee is no slouch. I mean, the stripe is actually on the correct side, whereas with this guy, due to how the transformation works, the stripe, it's on the wrong side. I don't know how many people notice it, but I bet after watching this video, people who didn't notice it will not be able to unsee it. So, sorry, not sorry. Not too bad in the way back kibble at all. Cleans up pretty well. I can pretty much say the same good things about Cliffjumper. Now, this was actually the one that I wanted more, because I was wanting to get Cliffjumper because, excluding variants, this was the last Autobot I needed that they made in the animated line. And this guy is surprisingly kind of expensive on the aftermarket. Probably even more so now, because animated has really skyrocketed recently. The figures, just in terms of how much they're worth. So I'm glad I got this guy when I did, but yeah, I'm not sure why he was expensive before that. Could be because it was the only Cliffjumper made in the line. I really have no idea. So I found someone selling some animated figures, and I noticed there was an Activators lot, and this guy was in it along with Thundercracker, who I'd also wanted. And the price to get the whole lot was like about the same price I see this guy go for on his own. So yeah, I definitely had to jump on that. So getting the Bumblebee, it was just kind of a nice bonus. Like with Bumblebee though, head sculpt, really nice. Definitely looks like Cliffjumper from the show. He has kind of a nice frown sculpted in, which I appreciate. I really appreciate the expressions on most of the animated figures. Now in terms of the articulation, head is on a ball joint. It can look up that far, which looks kind of weird, but it can do that. Not really a whole lot in the way of down, because chins can look right and left. It's still not perfect neck articulation, but it's whatever. The shoulders can go up that far. They can do a full 360. The biceps rotate. And there's sort of a double jointed elbow, but you can't really use it just due to the design. I will say the arms are probably the biggest issue for me with the robot mode, just because the hands are just sculpted on. The thing is, it doesn't bother me as much here, because the shortcomings of the Age of Extinction one-step changer Bumblebee bothered me because he was really big. The shortcomings on these figures, yeah, I'm going to point them out, but they don't bother me as much because I'm impressed with how much they get right for this size. Legs can go forward that far and back that far. They can go out to the side. Have a thigh rotation. Knee bends almost at 90 and some foot articulation. So posability on these guys, it's not too bad. So let's see, I covered the alt modes, the transformation, the robot modes, the comparison for both modes. I think that about does it for these figures. So I'll go ahead and stick Cliffjumper on the display, because, as I said, even if I do like this Bumblebee, I generally keep him in a bin and display the deluxe version. So there we had the Transformers Animated Activators Cliffjumper with my animated Autobot collection. He's really small, but he gets the job done. So overall, do I recommend this figure? Yeah, I'd say I do. The vehicle mode's pretty good. Transformation, it's simple, but still pretty satisfying. And the robot mode doesn't suffer that much for the simplicity. And if you are wanting a Cliffjumper for your animated collection, this is really your only option. Now, if you are wanting to get him, as I mentioned earlier, he's a little pricey on the aftermarket. So I recommend just looking at Activator lots and seeing if he's included in those, because I find that to be a better value. At least that's how it worked out for me, if you want to get him. Because I've seen this figure go for like $60 on his own, and that's just... he's not worth that. But if you can get him in a lot for a decent price, or if you do just stumble on someone selling him for an okay price, I recommend him. He's pretty good. Of course, that's just what I think of him. As always, please be sure to let me know in the comments what you think of him. And if you like this video, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and God bless.